Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, so picture this. A police officer pulls you over and asks to take a quick look inside your purse. Do you legally have to say yes? Well, today we're putting on our constitutional law professor hats to decode exactly how the Fourth Amendment protects your everyday bag. Let's dive right in.
Imagine you're stopped. The lights are flashing in your rearview mirror, and the officer casually gestures to your bag, asking to just check inside. So police ask to search your purse. Should you say yes? It's an incredibly high-stakes moment, honestly. But to make the right decision, you really need to understand the Fourth Amendment, which is what protects us all against unreasonable searches and seizures. In that split second, the officer is asking you to make a huge choice between giving your consent or forcing them to establish what the law calls probable cause. It's absolutely not just a casual favor. It's a major legal turning point in your whole interaction.
All right, Section 1, the purse privacy problem.
So under a landmark Supreme Court case called Katz v. United States, the Fourth Amendment protects people, not just places. This establishes what courts call a reasonable expectation of privacy. Just look at this list of what we carry. Purses almost always contain your smartphone, right? And thanks to another massive ruling, Riley v. California, we know police generally need a warrant to search a cell phone because of the literal digital universe it holds. Your bag also holds your wallet, but a highly visible ID, your bank cards, maybe some highly sensitive prescription medicine, and your house keys. We aren't just talking about a piece of fabric here. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a concentrated portable vault of your most private, constitutionally protected information.
And this brilliantly illustrates why this topic is just so absolutely crucial. Because a purse carries such a massive expectation of privacy, police generally need probable cause, which means they need factual, articulable evidence that a crime has been committed, or they need a literal warrant from a judge to legally breach it. When an officer asks to search your belongings, they are very often just trying to bypass that strict constitutional requirement. Giving them your consent is like handing them a massive legal shortcut. It waives your Fourth Amendment protections instantly, just like that.
Moving on to Section 2. When can police search?
So the absolutely crucial thing to remember here is that search rules are completely dependent on the exact circumstances of the encounter. There are four main situational factors where authorities might legally bypass your consent anyway. Number 1, arrests. If you're being lawfully placed under arrest, the rules regarding your personal belongings change dramatically. Number 2, warrants signed by a judge. Obviously, you can't argue with a warrant. Number 3, safety concerns. Under a case called Terry v. Ohio, if an officer has a reasonable suspicion you're armed and dangerous, they can perform a limited protective search, which you'll often hear called a Terry stop. And finally, number 4, specific legal situations. For instance, there's this huge popular misconception about passengers in cars. But under the Supreme Court case Wyoming v. Houghton, if police already have probable cause to search a car, they can absolutely legally search a passenger's purse if it's left inside that car. But here's the kicker. If these four circumstances are not in play, the legal dynamic rests heavily in your favor.
Which brings us to Section 3, what you can say. If you are stopped and those four specific circumstances we just talked about are definitely not present, I want you to memorize this exact sentence. I do not consent to a search. It is perfectly legal, and frankly, it is highly recommended by legal scholars to just politely state this. You don't need to be aggressive or rude. You are just explicitly refusing to waive your Fourth Amendment rights. By saying this, you slam that shortcut closed. You force the officer to rely on establishing probable cause instead of just relying on your voluntary waiver. You have the absolute constitutional right to keep that legal bridge closed, for sure.
Okay, Section 4, the biggest mistake. Now, take a really close look at this. Knowing the right words to say is really only half the battle. The absolute biggest mistake you can make is reacting emotionally or physically. If you panic, if you start arguing, or if you physically try to pull your bag away from an officer, no way. You aren't protecting your rights there, you are actively destroying them. Legally speaking, acting erratically or physically resisting can be viewed as obstruction, or worse, it can actually instantly create the reasonable suspicion or probable cause that justifies the exact search you were desperately trying to prevent. The right action every single time is to remain completely calm and respectful. Your polite demeanor, that is literally your strongest legal shield.
Almost done here. Section 5, protecting your information.
So, beyond your words and actions in the moment, you really must actively protect and intentionally organize the items in your bag before you ever even encounter an officer. You might be wondering, what does it matter how my bag is organized? Well, it comes down to a really important legal concept called the plain view doctrine. Imagine you open your purse just to grab your ID, and an officer spots contraband, or maybe some highly sensitive documents just loosely sitting there right in plain view. Poof! Your expectation of privacy instantly dissolves. They now have probable cause to search the rest of the bag, and they don't need your consent anymore. So treat the inside of your purse like a mini filing cabinet. Keep those sensitive prescription bottles and financial documents secured, zippered up, and completely out of sight.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. Will understanding your privacy rights actually protect your personal information tomorrow? Yes, absolutely. But you have to remember that constitutional rights are exactly like muscles. They literally only work if you flex them, politely and correctly, right in the moment. The Fourth Amendment isn't just some dusty old legal document sitting in a library. It lives in your everyday habits. From exactly how you pack your bag in the morning to how calmly you speak during a stressful traffic stop. So the next time you grab your purse on the way out the door, just remember the immense constitutional power you're carrying with you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Remember, stay calm, stay informed, and always know your rights.